there's a disease in our country today, a disease primarily of self-deceit and and just deceit in general. Back in the day, things weren't as they seem. We kid ourselves today. We kid ourselves that 1998's legislations towards the understanding and the looking after of disabled people um, was a turning point in history. The dissolution and destruction of the old hospitals were primarily just a stab in the dark. We kid ourselves today within the care industry that uh, care plans and legislations and the Care Act of 2010 were a turning point. They weren't. Full of, of, of good intentions though they might be, they have failed us. The point being, back in the day, in the early in like the late 1980s, things really were better. That is to say, better, but not good. People looked after each other. Things were not legislated. They were not organised. The whole organisation system is failing us. We're looking at mass migration today, and those migrants come in and they take care jobs. They take care jobs. They're untrained. They don't know what they're doing. They're not. Very few of them actually really focused in on their work. Some of them do, but they all have the best of intentions. The point is, really, at the end of the day, we were all focused on what needed to be done back. Nothing helped me. I am here now. I've got actually receiving virtually no benefits at all, yet I still have epilepsy. Yet loads of people come into this country and take all the benefits which are due to people like myself who actually still suffer with epilepsy and autism and all sorts of other things. No one, I mean, autism, epilepsy, dyspraxia, dyslexia, um, and general depression, manic depression. The point is that at the end of the day, I still have seizures, not like I did years ago in the late 1980s, but they're nocturnal now. But they used to be during the day as well. I've been institutionalized all my life, and the point is, you're institutionalized not by the fundamental way in which people are looked after, but you're institutionalized in all sorts of ways. And this gets down to the very financial sector, which is corrupt and run by people who basically, I mean, I could go well into that. I have a brother who really looks into that sort of thing, but my main concern is the parliamentary system, not not the surrounding areas of the occult. I think my brother Charles can really specialise on that more, but the point is that back in the day I still had seizures and I was looked after by my family, not by the state. And the state did not focus in on people who weren't British or who weren't English. People used to focus in on those who needed the help. That's not to say that it was good. Indeed, it was pretty crap, to be quite honest with you. My family looked after me for the majority of my life. Back in the day, I had so many seizures, unreal. I had massive stress back in the day. I mean, I had massive exam stress. It was like nighttime seizures during June. Stress was mainly setting off a lot of epileptic attacks, distractions during exams were all over the place, screaming at night in pain and having the ambulance called by my family. Now this in itself really points out that the family is the central hub of those that look after you, not the care industry. It's really quite chronic. This, the scream. Other times, I would take my own sleeping medication at night, diazepam, when my dad wasn't home. I was living with my dad at the time. It's really. My father was already working on my 18th birthday party. It reminds me of his nights involved. It's the nights that involved sometimes he used to pop into the bar in Clapham Common and he got Jeremy Brett's autograph, for example. It's sitting over there. It's like really quite. I really cherish it. But having bought loads of booze, he acquired a DJ for the event, and he got a caterer as well. I never knew any of this. When I heard this later, I found myself blown away. Even people from Cornwall, where I lived with my mother, were invited. The party had been set up. It was the 31st of June 1998, and I was in a panic about my exams still. Studies I had done in Stanislavski's method were all well and good. The exam was next morning, and I spent the majority of the lunchtime period in the pub having one of the most excellent sausage sandwiches. My coursework on Jane Austen and Mansfield Park was so much fun. However, when pressed to remember the actual thing during the exam, I folded. I folded. I stared with blank mind at the questions, deciding I might do better start with the Chaucer questions on the Miller's Tale. I flipped over the page. The essay on the moral and practical results of the two timing was a breeze after the Merchant of Venice the previous year. Coriolanus, though, was just a mock exam. I felt strongly blinky, which is what I called sieges like when I was young, and I still call them that today privately. I turned the page over to a section on the usage of stanza similes within Philip Larkin's poem Afternoons. While I examined the sociological stuff between sandy playgrounds and pointless parenting skills in the modern age, my mind could take no more of the seizure feeling I was having. I didn't want to have a seizure in public. I stumbled out of the room, pushing open the double doors into the corridor with my last energy. My head hit the hardwood floor atop of the corridor, and I crashed into a fit. I mean, it's Danny, my friend, who had rushed over to me during the exam. He came to help. Slowly and surely, he was the last thing I saw before I passed out. Now, this is intrinsic because it was the family who actually got me back home and looked after me. But the next day, I found myself stirring in my bed in my dad's place. Danny was next to me. My friend sat there on the wicker chair beside me. The first thing that caught my attention was that photograph of Jeremy Brett with the autograph behind it. I had lost 24 hours, and with no support, no care, no ECHR, none of that going on. I lost 24 hours of my own time, and I looked after myself with the great help of my family and friends around me at the time. This is the point. The point is that I had so much trauma going on. It was the day before my birthday, and I felt shit. It seemed sorry. It seems I could not remember any events that had happened within the last 24 hours. Danny spent most of the day with me and waited to find my strength again before I got up several hours later. Dad had told me that nothing was happening on my birthday, but Danny was coming around to see me. He referred to him as that little Jewish boy. Now unacceptable these days. He didn't. My dad didn't know Danny that well back in the day. He didn't know him hardly at all, but he didn't recognise him as my friend. It's like a thing. It seemed pointless to stay up that evening for no reason whatsoever and to watch more television. But that's what I did anyway. You know, I looked after myself. This is the thing. I soldiered through it. I soldiered through it without help, without support, with any of these care sectors. Where I know a place up the road here. They look after people of my age who have minimal things wrong with them. Minimal things wrong with them. They have a little bit of depression. They have a little bit of autism going on, but primarily they have nothing wrong with them. I'm stuck here. I have to negotiate life as it stands without help and support. The help and support is given to those who actually bludge of the system and don't need it really. And it's primarily I've also looked after little children who've got diseases. This is all to do with first grade. I could go way away with that one. Major as they were, it seemed to me that all I could do was get on with my work. But I went to bed that night around 1 o'clock. I staggered up and went slowly downstairs that night after I'd gone to bed to the toilet by the office the next day. I felt slightly out of sorts. It was only when I managed to get up as the steep Edwardian stairs again that I realised the full extent of my wobbly legs. It had taken me at least 15 minutes on my own to struggle up the stairs on all fours. Eventually I reached my bed and sat with the full force of my weight. I relaxed. I felt a severe seizure coming on. Well, it was either a tonic clonic, um, or complex partial, or perhaps both at the same time, mixed in together. I've been diagnosed with Thales cortical dysplasia since then, and this can account for both of those things. Oranges and reds surrounded me in my room, and 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 oxygen, it became an issue. I collapsed on the bed and did all I could to control the onset of status epilepticus. It went on for this for the best part of that day, then my birthday indeed. I'd taken off my boxer shorts when I went downstairs that evening. So I spent the rest of the day on 2nd July in a state of status epilepticus. Eventually, I aroused myself enough a degree to be able to reach the stairs again to get to the phone. I had to call my father. I managed to wrap myself around the wire of a fan that had been, this fan had been trying to cool me down and relieve me of stress, but I was naked and sinking into a state of unconsciousness. My father came home that day to find a dead son lying on the ground in his bedroom. So I recall the party was off then. I looked about the hospital room to which I'd been moved after that incident, and I was totally lost as to what was happening to me. A lot of family were around my bed. The darkness I felt still reminded me of the void that was still surrounding me in my head. Luckily, Mum had bought some decent tea from the downstairs coffee shop. The doctor said I could go home in a couple of days. It was thought that my father would have trouble in coping with the fallout of a coma I had been in. I remember my brother Ben proffering me a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. It made me smile. He just approached my bed just at that time, and it made me smile. The sole joy of my life was my brother's at that particular time. In fact, to some extent, it still is. My friends from college were still recovering from the party, I was also informed. It had gone ahead without me. I was told that I'd been in a coma for a week, and it was a seventh of results. I missed my own birthday party. My friends had a brilliant time apparently. My dad found me coming home from work. I think my dad was most upset. It was why the party had gone ahead without me, I think. Um, um, Always incapable of facing the harsh realities of my condition on such a scale. It was felt that I couldn't get back to my father's place in Clapham because of the problems he had working through the trauma of that occasion. When I was left alone that day, I found myself sinking back on my own in the hospital bed and relaxing upon the diazepam which I had taken. I closed my eyes and the luminescent darkness enveloped me again, surrounding the back of the colour cones of my visual cortex. I sunk into a great reverie, mind racing with the alternatives of the future. My acting career was shot to hell. It had destroyed everything I had aspired to up to that point. Total destruction. I had to work through it. I work through it to this day on my own, without the benefits of knowing that I could have been so much more. So much more. I still struggle on my own, without the care system, without the legislation of 2000 and 2010, without the edicts of Tony Blair back in 1998. He ruined everything. It was taken over to the Conservative Party and they moved on with it. They didn't even reform it. And this is the very point. There is no reform going on. I don't propose that we look to some of the reform which is being propounded today. I think that basically what we need to do is we need to move on. I think we need to move on, disband the care sector completely, and that will eliminate half of our problems. We need to look to our own. This is the intrinsic point.